weasel. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoa, look at that one in the tube.
Look at that. Look at this one down there.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah, they wouldn't put them on the floor, they'd start running all over the shop.
Oh, right, yeah.
I think I know what it is.
Yeah. Does anyone know what they are?
Weasel.
Weasels, yes, okay. So weasels are the smallest member of the mustelid family. Does anyone else know other members of the mustelid family at all? Yeah? Yeah, perfect, badger, yeah, perfect. So these guys are the smallest, okay? But they might be small, but we'll talk about their teeth in a moment, okay? So these guys, you're going to find them right out in the countryside. You tend to notice these when you're driving along. It's that quick flash of something that runs across in front of you and you go, sort of go, oh, what's that? It's normally one of these guys. So weasels, smallest members, stoats slightly bigger. A lot of people get stoats and weasels confused with one another. And the reason for that is they are very, very similar to look at. The only difference is with a stoat is they have a big black bushy bit on the top of their tail. Okay, so these guys are actually all individually marked. So as you can see, as kind of nicely displaying here at the moment, he's that nice, ready sort of brown colour on top, and then he's nice and white underneath. And obviously it's not a uniform pattern, so if you're lucky enough to have weasels in your garden and you get to spend time with them and watch them, you'll notice that where those two colours meet, they're all individual. So if you're lucky enough, you get to know them all. So, anybody know what these little guys eat?
Meat.
What's in it? Chip.
Yeah, that's a bit of a giveaway, yeah. Anything else?
Meat.
Meat, definitely meat.
So yeah, they definitely eat meat, so they will eat small mammals, small
Mice.
birds, small rodents, things like that. They can take on bigger prey as well. It's not unusual for them to go for rabbits and things, more than capable of taking a rabbit as well if they want to. Now, their teeth are really, really incredible because although they look really, really small, they actually pack a real powerful bite. And the reason for that is their lower jaw is half the length of their skull. So if you said to me, do I want to stand in a room full of tigers or a room full of weasels, I would actually pick the tigers, okay, because the weasel bite is far worse. Obviously, I'm not going to do either. Please don't go away and throw yourself in a tiger enclosure or test this weasel theory out. So, why have we hung their chickens, as you'll notice in the enclosures over there? The reason we do that is not because we've got a really warped sense of mind, but it's to stimulate them as to how they would actually go for prey out in the wild, okay? So in a moment I'm going to run Kine and Kyra across, and hopefully you'll be able to see exactly what they do. So these guys really are the acrobatics of the world, okay? They are the gymnasts. They are really flexible, really bendy, and the reason for this is obviously if they're out hunting, they need to be able to get into all those nooks and crannies and go for their prey, etc. So here today, they're being fed a little bit of chicken. On alternate days, they get fed a little bit of pigeons. Sometimes they get fed mice. All depends on what we've got here ready. So they're all nice and ready, waiting to run across. So Kine, so we've got 3 weasels here. We've got Kine, Kyra and Ginny. Kine is the lovely, gorgeous male you see here. Kyra is the very, very tiny one. She's displaying lovely in here. Okay, these guys are fully grown. Okay, so this is a male running along behind, and this is a little female. They are completely fully grown. Okay, they're not going to get any bigger than that. Okay, and then Ginny, I suspect, is fast asleep in here. Ginny spends most of his time sleeping. Okay, comes out to eat. So yeah, so last year we put Kine and Kyra in together, and they successfully had 5 babies. Okay, of which when they're born, they look a little bit like chocolate eclairs. They're carried around very similar as to how a cat would carry kittens about, okay? So to start off with, she nested in the smallest box, and then as they got bigger, she grabbed them by the scruff of the neck and she would move them across from various different enclosures. Very difficult to try and clean them and know how many weasels you've got because they do everything in their little beds, okay? So all their toileting, all their feeding, when they're dependent on mum, all goes on behind closed doors. The only way that we were actually able to determine that we actually had baby weasels is that we could hear them squeaking. And again, as you can appreciate with the traffic and the aeroplane noise, sometimes that's not overly possible. So kind of separated once again. They will rendezvous again later on this year. For the adults of you, I'll leave you to think about what else that entails. And hopefully they will breed successfully again. The babies are at the British Conservancy up in Luton, so doing great sterling work up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run these guys across. If you want to sort of gather around this end, hopefully Klein will display why he's so acrobatic and very gymnastic. And then what I'll do is just get you guys to take a seat. I'll talk to you about something else I've got here, and then we'll go wandering around and we'll go and see the polecat and down to the foxes.
Live. Look at that. He did not waste any time, did he? Wow. There's the other one.
Oh, there's one there. There she is. Here she comes.
You tied it up extra tight for him today.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey, ribbon.
I'm normally a little bit softer than that, and normally gets it away in one.
They'll have the head off.
He's really hanging on, it's great.
Wow.
So, really, really powerful teeth. I tend to hang them up by the hind legs, and the reason I do that is because normally Kine runs off with the head part first. Really graphical, I know. There was a couple of guys in here before. They will eat everything, okay? So everything that you can see in there will be demolished in seconds, okay? Same with mice. They're not overly fussed on things that are feathery, so we tend to find a lot of feathers if we're feeding them pigeon. But yeah, they certainly will have a good old go, won't you? You can do there. Keep going. Yeah, all the juicy, lovely bits. All the gross, grubby bits, really. But he's normally our go-to. We can always rely on him to get out of bed and do what we like him to do.
He's almost got it.
Yeah, and like I said, this is exactly what happened.
Oh dear.
It's okay, the head will be gone at some other point, don't panic.
Oh, there we go. She was in there.
There you go, see, all gone. Just shows you just how powerful these guys are.
Zoom in.
There she goes.
Just take a seat again, and then I'll bring Quill round and you can see him a little bit better. Okay, so, anybody know what this is?
Pheasant.
A pheasant, correct. Anybody know what sex of pheasant?
Male.
Male, perfect. If he falls off my hand, do not panic. He does that for a regular basis, but he does normally insist on being a bit of an owl and likes to sit on your wrist. So what I might do is give him to Stephen to walk around with.
Ooh. There he goes.
There he goes. So, British bird, not British bird, what do we think?
British.
Not British, correct. Okay, so we guys over in England class these guys as a British bird, and the reason for that is we see a lot of these guys out in the wild, okay. Anybody know where they actually come from? So they were imported from Asia a very long time ago, okay, so that's where they come from. But like I said, we class them as a British bird because they're readily found across the whole of the UK. I say that, I'm from Wiltshire, I'm Wiltshire born and bred, I see loads of these back home. Do I ever see them down here? No, I'm sure they don't exist in Cornwall. Okay, apart from this one we've got here. So this is Quill, and Quill was rescued by a colleague of ours, taken home, hand-reared. And we soon realised that actually Quill is 100% blind, okay, so he cannot see anything at all. So whether he was born like that, whether he had an altercation with a vehicle, again, very, very difficult to tell, okay. So these guys are ground nesting birds. Anybody know what ground nesting means?
Is that in trees? No, not in trees. Bushes.
So these guys nest on the ground, okay? So the females, sorry ladies, no polite way of saying this, we're really dull brown, boring in colour, okay? And the reason that we have to be like that is because if we're sat on the nest, we need to be camouflaged, okay? Which is why these guys look as stunning as they do. So quill is a ring-collared pheasant. Sometimes they get nicknamed as a vicar because they've got... Yes, sadly so. Okay, so their biggest predator is man, okay? Followed closely by the fox, which we'll go into a little bit later. Anybody want to hazard a guess prior to bird flu of how many of these birds, along with red-legged partridge, we were importing into the UK every year? Think of a number and add a load of knots on the end. Okay, so we were pre-bird flu actually receiving between 50 to 60 million of these birds every year.
This is more, and this is Kindy. And yes, they are unbelievably cute. I don't mind.
There he is.
Okay, so talking about more members of the mustard family, we've got Stinky Pete, which is being held by Stephen. Anybody know what Stinky Pete is? Polecat. Polecat. Anybody know what I've got? No difference.
That one's very much mistaken.
So these guys you find out in the wild, okay? These are domesticated polecats, okay? So this is where we get our nice fluffy ferrets from, okay? So this is Mork and Mindy, okay? So they're Pete's wives. He was here by himself originally, but he liked some girly friends. So out in the wild, very, very similar to like the weasels, okay? What he does hunting-wise. And he is going to eat, again, small mammals, small birds, bugs, grubs, insects. He'll go for rabbits, they will go for anything else like that. So Stephen, if I can just get you to wobble Stinky Pete from side to side. So these guys, okay, I would not do this with any other animal, okay, but these guys are built and designed to go down dens and burrows, okay, so they have really bendable spines, okay. Please don't go home and try that yourselves, okay, because you might get stuck, and don't try it with any other animal because obviously they're not built that way, okay. So yes, very cute. Yeah, I know, it's in his bed. So what I'll do, feel free to touch these guys. I'm not going to give you the bitey end, not because they're going to bite you, but just in case they decide they might want to. And certainly Stinky Pete, if he's in a very sort of grumpy mood, which he barely looks like he's with it at the moment. So feel free to have a little touch, feel free to have a little smell if you like, and then we'll talk about why they smell.
Oh, it's that sun.
Just put me to what he said.
Just watch it with the face there.
Watch your fate.
Because he can bite.
Really, really good fun, these guys. Now, you will notice.
Not his face.
Work our way up and down the line.
Yeah, do you want to give it a little back a little rub there?
His back.
There
Sorry,
we go.
Alex,
He is quite smelly. Now that is his normal smell. He's got very sharp teeth. Anybody actually know what his best defence mechanism is and what these guys do if they're wandered in the wild at all? Spray? They don't spray. You'd hear it, you'd smell it. It's really generally not applicable. Really, really cute. I must admit, I used to work as a veterinary nurse, so we used to get a lot, years ago, they used to be the in thing. We used to get the ones that are fed a variety of different things. Again, they get fed chicken, they get fed mice, pigeon, quail, and they also have a little bit of hard food that your ferret that you can buy. Wow. Really, really good fun.
So there. Look at that.
Okay, so this is Teddy, okay? Teddy is a red fox. Okay. So Teddy was rescued when she was only a few weeks old by a member of the public who decided to keep her like her dog in her house. Now I don't need to tell you, because you're all looking extremely intelligent today, but keeping wild animals in a domestic setting really doesn't work very well, okay? So Teddy trashed the house, could believe right at this moment in time, but completely trashed the house. The lady unfortunately also fed her human food, which resulted in her suffering a small hairline fracture to one of her front legs. So although this doesn't cause her any problem here on a daily basis, out in the wild it might be a little bit of a weak link for her and had she been released. Now she's female, she's approximately 2 years old, she is completely fully grown. Now if any of you have seen foxes before, the dog foxes are a lot bigger, the female foxes will be bigger than her, and we think the reason for that is because she was the runt, okay? No polite way of saying this, Mummy and Daddy Fox need to make sure that they rear the ones that are going to be good, that are strong and survivors, not little runty ones. Okay, so anybody know where these guys live?
UK.
Everywhere.
Pretty much,
So
yeah.
predominantly in the countryside, but as you guys know, they have become very urbanised as well. I used to work in Bournemouth and Bristol, and I often used to see these guys roaming the streets at night. And the reason for that is our British wildlife, guys, is on its knees at the moment. We have less than 10% of our own British wildlife. So what these guys are doing and why they're becoming urbanised is because it's easier for them to raid the trash, raid the streets for food than it is to actively go out and hunt, because sadly there isn't enough of our own food to go out and hunt. So although as you can see at the moment she's happily mouthing Stephen, she's very much like a puppy. Gentler with her you are, softer she is, the rougher you become. Sometimes you get into a right old fucking crackhead. So although she's been reared by humans, she does still have that natural instinct. Okay, so she knows to dig a hole, as you can see from our various different things, stash food. Now these guys get a really bad write-up in the press. Anybody know why?
They catch chickens.
Chickens, yeah. So us humans, we're really stupid because we do not fence our birds in well enough, whether that's chickens, turkeys, ducks, etc. And these guys are going to get in for a meal if they can. Now a lot of people are under the assumption that these guys get into a chicken coop, they kill all the chickens for fun. They don't, okay? It might well be that when you've gone out there, let's just say for example I've got 10 chickens, I go out there, one's missing, I've got 9 dead. Anybody know why?
Because he only wants to see one, not all the...
So what they want to do is they're what's called stash hoarders, okay? So their intention is to return to the chicken coop, carry all those carcasses away, bury them deep underground so that when prey becomes limited in the winter, they can dig them back up and they can eat them again. Anybody know what the smallest fox you can get is?
Is it the snowy fox? Wow.
So, yes. So they're the smallest, they've got really great big ears. If you are a fan of David Attenborough, please watch the series that he's just done on Sunday that did have a fox on it. A load of other things coming up as well. But it looks absolutely amazing. It just shows off what these foxes do out in the wild. So it's not like the animals of Farthing Wood, okay? Mummy and Daddy Fox don't make babies, live happily ever after. Actually what happens is they meet, obviously, the female becomes pregnant, the dog fox wanders off and carries on his lovely social life, meeting various different foxes along the way. And the female, like it always is, ladies, left to do the work. Great, isn't it? So out in the wild, let's say for example Teddy, she would rear anywhere between sort of 2 to 5 cubs, okay? And then obviously once they're old enough, they will go off and explore and do what they do best. So we do lots of encounters with various ones of our animals. Teddy is one of those as well, where you guys can get up close and personal with her. So although we've obviously discussed her diet when she's out in the wild of consisting of mostly chickens, oh, that's a lie. So these guys will eat pheasants, rabbits, small birds, you name it, they'll eat it, okay? Here she gets fed a varied diet. She has rabbit, she has quail, pigeon, and then sometimes she has a couple of handfuls of dog biscuits that you would give your domesticated dog, along with some domesticated meat as well. Okay, but yeah, she's really, really super, super fun. So I'm going to end it there. What I will say is if you guys can do anything, even if it's just 1p a month to help your local British Wildlife Trust, is really, really important, okay? Because we need to get back to the numbers of hedgehogs, rabbits, hares, deers, badgers, etc. that we had many, many years years ago. Okay, it's very difficult for us to concentrate on what we have in the UK, and that's because most of us, myself included, we like to go to, say, Africa to see the lions. You might want to go to Antarctica, you might want to go see whales and dolphins. When I'm not here, I spend all my time on cruise ships looking for whales and dolphins, working for a big conservancy trust there as well. So really important that we do everything we can. And also, if you get wildlife in your garden as well, do help it along if you can. Whether that's the mere sort of bumblebee, or whether it's a butterfly, and all those little things count. So I'm going to leave it there. What comes next? The out talk? Is there another out talk, or is it fly display next? Hopefully you guys have all got a programme. I've been in the Caribbean, so I have no idea what day it is or where I am. Hopefully you guys have got a programme of today's activities. If not, there's a load of posters around the sanctuary. I believe there's another out talk coming up, which will be talking about some different birds. Brett will be doing a second flying display, which will be different birds again to this morning. And then if you're not all really sick and tired of me, I will be waffling about the meerkats, the stork and the wallabies at 3:30.
Hello there. Hello there.
Hello, meerkats. Literally the skull out of a lion.
No, the one in the Lion King was actually a lion's skull. That's more of an ox. Yeah.
Did you hear the noise you just made?
Yeah. Yeah.
Guys, I have one.
Morwenna and Monty.
Monty.
Oh, one of them's up there.
That one looks like Morwenna, doesn't it? Morwenna, yeah.
That one Morwenna, maybe.
Morwenna.
Olga, Tom.
Oh, Olga, Tom. Monty.
She is a moth, or is it Rio Marley? Oracle looks lighter, but then it looks like it's got the ears of Rio Marley.
Oh, there you are. Sylvie, you've got a sponsor. Whoever this one is has a sponsor.
And for why we got the wrong destiny as we go. So Ivan is a Siberian eagle owl. Now, she was in fact born right here at the sanctuary. Now, when Ivan first hatched here, I hatched. So yes, baby owl. I'll let you know about that in just a moment. Unlike some birds, for example, parrots are a great example, birds of paradise. You very often find a male and a female. Now, again, as I'm bringing them around closer for you to see, guys, check out how much bigger than parrots. So males, they're going to hunt rabbits, hares, prey around that size. Game birds are often hunted. Would you like to look this way? I'm sure she does that.
We get you with this one.
Now, if you're ever viewing what I call the Caravan family, three different members in the barn, you've got the east habitat. So, very similar size, shapes to the British tawny owl, which is also a member of the wood owl family, guys. Beautiful markings along this owl, and not overly fussy again when it comes to hunting. She is, however, all of about 11 ounces, so it's only going to be smaller prey. Lots of small rodents and small mammals, sometimes even insects. And huge. And
Oh wow, look at the eyes on that.
I know.
Can you hear him? I've put this on sports mode.
What does that mean?
It means that
Test your microphone.
it has
There we go.
a shorter shutter speed.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the second flying display of the day.
So then that means
My name is
it
Brett, and I
focuses
have the
more.
immense pleasure of being the falconer for the flying displays today. But before I start talking to you about the 3 amazing birds I plan on flying, I need to cover 1 or 2 quick safety guidelines to make sure all of you, as well as all of the birds, are kept nice and safe today. Firstly, guys, the birds that I will be flying will be coming very close to the top of your head as they fly. If you feel the need, you can duck, but please do not launch yourselves on the floor in an Oscar-winning performance. This will lead to injuries, and injuries means I fill out lots of boring first aid paperwork. So to keep all of you and the birds safe, please keep your bums on your seats while the birds are flying around. Secondly, in this display in particular, the birds will come and sit right next to you on the benches. If they do this, feel free to take pictures of them, have a good look at their features up close, but please in no way, shape or form attempt to touch them. Stroking and poking is fantastic for cats and dogs at home, not so much for the owls that we fly here at the sanctuary. Thirdly, guys, if you wish to leave the flying demonstration at any point, you are more than welcome to do so. All I ask is for you not to walk straight across the middle of the greenery, where the birds will be flying and I will be walking. This again will limit the amount of injuries in my display, which makes me and the managers very happy. So without further ado, everyone, I'll start talking to you about this incredible bird that I brought out to meet you first. Now this, everyone, is Logan. And Logan is a stunning example of a great grey owl. Now owls, they come in all variety of shapes, sizes and colours, and they belong to different family groups. The bird that you're looking at here is in fact the largest member of the woodland owl family, known as the Strix owls. So
remember
woodland
that's
owls,
what
they
that
tend to
little owl
have
was, a
quite a
Strix owl?
narrow wingspan, as you may have learned on the first flying display and in the owl talk with my colleague Paula. But this bird, she's a bit of an exception. She is found in a forest with massive trees, with plenty of spacings between them. She is found in what's known as the Northern Pine Belt, which is a big band of forest which circumnavigates the top of the globe. So it runs through Canada and North America, Scandinavia, and throughout Northern Europe and Asia as well. So these guys, they are pretty widespread, but are pretty much exclusively found in woodland areas, as the name woodland owl suggests. So Logan here, I make no secret of it, she is my favourite bird in the entire
space in here
sanctuary.
for
Me and
the
Logan,
birds to sit
we
in.
get on pretty well, don't we, darling? She has an amazing little personality. She is the youngest owl that we fly here at the sanctuary, coming in at 3 years old at the end of this season. So she is absolutely beautiful to look at, but unfortunately she wasn't always that way. Owl babies are called owlets, and baby great grey owls, they are not the prettiest sight to behold. So although she looks stunning at the moment, when she was a baby, she was simply a big old beak and a lot of feather and fluff. The great grey owls found in woodland areas, and they will be hunting a variety of different prey
Oh,
items.
boy.
She will be eating things such as voles. She will be eating weasels, other rodents, small birds if she can get her talons on them. She is found in temperatures dipping down to minus 20 degrees Celsius. So this is very much a cold climate bird. She has excess feathers around her head and chest area to make sure her vital organs are kept nice and warm in order for them to function properly. So her eyes, brain, stomach, heart and lungs needs to be kept toasty. To put into perspective just how small she is underneath those feathers, everyone, her head is roughly the size of a tennis ball, and that's it. You would lose your fingers trying to find owl in amongst all those feathers. She is the best example of a feather duster that we can show you here at the sanctuary. She is a feather duster that does love to eat though. She is very food orientated, as you can see. She gets a little chunk of chicken each time she does a flight. This is positive reinforcement in action. So every time that she does something that we deem as good, i.e. fly to us in this display, she gets a nice little reward. Isn't that right, madam? So this bird, she has the largest facial disc of any owl species in the entire world. Now her facial disc are the two concave circles that surround her eyes. All of these feathers act as a funnel for sound. It channels every little squeak and crunch or rustle of grass to her ears, which are right beside her eyeball. Not only has she got the largest facial disc of any owl species in the world, she also has the largest ears. So this facial disc helps to hone the sound, but the ears really are amazing. So at distances of 100 meters, she can hear a little mouse rustling around under a foot of snow. So she is absolutely incredible with those set of ears. This bird, she doesn't have humongous eyes because quite frankly, she doesn't need them. When you've got some of the best hearing in the entire animal kingdom, you don't need to waste your time growing nice big eyes. However, her eyes are a gorgeous yellow colour. And if you've been to a couple of our other talks today, everyone, you may have learned that the colour of an owl's eye can roughly indicate to you what time of day they will be hunting. Keep it going. So the fact she has bright yellow eyes tells me that she's going to be hunting mostly in the day. The reason for this is yellow is a colour that is fantastic at reflecting the glare of the sun. So not all owls are nocturnal. Plenty will hunt during the day where there's plenty of food to be hunting. So she will be sat up in a tree, listening out for her prey, rustling around underneath her.
Oh boy.
She isn't that big, everyone. When I popped her on a set of scales this morning, she came in at 1,000 grams. She is about the size of a bag of sugar, this one. Incredibly light. The bigger you are, the harder it is for you to move. So these birds, they don't want to be too big because they're going to be too clunky to move around their environment. So a kilogram is about the max size you will see for a grey grey, but of course a male grey grey will be slightly smaller because in the world of birds of prey, the females are the bosses. They are the bigger ones and the stronger ones. She does hold another title, everyone. She is the tallest species of owl in the world. She, from the tip of those lovely long tail feathers to the top of her head, is the tallest species.
Wow.
And I say tallest and not biggest because when we're talking about how big an owl is, we talk how much they weigh. So the largest owl we have here on site comes in at about 14 pounds, a big Siberian eagle owl. To put that into perspective, she weighs about 2.5, nowhere near our biggest bird. Logan here, once she locates her prey, she will use those incredibly long and strong legs to finish the job. This species can punch through snow and ice, capable of holding up an adult human being. She is incredibly powerful, which is a massive benefit when you're hunting rodents. So this girl here extends those nice long legs and she will grip her prey and hold it away from her body. If you're grabbing something that's alive, it can bite you back or scratch you back. So it's within your interest to make sure that you don't suffer any injuries. Logan here will grab her food and squeeze until it stops moving. If that doesn't do the job, she has an inbuilt behaviour to bite the base of the neck of whatever she's trying to eat. Now this will finish the job off and ensure that it's not wiggling as it goes down into her stomach. So owls, you've heard a lot about how they hunt and how they eat. Let's talk briefly about how they get their hydration, how they get their water into their system. So most owls, pretty much all of them, will try to swallow their prey whole. Now the reason for this, everyone, is because they haven't got what's called an epiglottis. This is the membrane that stops water from going into our lungs. So what that means is an owl cannot breathe in the same fashion as us humans. They swallow their food whole because it keeps all the gooey bits, the blood and bodily fluids, inside the meal. By swallowing your food whole, you essentially get a meal deal, 2 for 1. You get your drink at the same time as getting your meal. So Logan here, I'm hoping today, will demonstrate to you just how she does that. So I have brought with me some rather large pieces of food to reward her right at the end for her dinner. We give her the big bits at the end because once she's too full, she will not be bothered to move. So as I go around the lawn, I'm going to be giving her 2 day-old cockerel chicks. And I know what you're thinking, I'm not incredibly mean, I'm not feeding her chicks that we've reared here just to feed our owls. It's actually a great way of recycling. If you are a male chicken born on an egg farm, you are a waste. You can't provide them any eggs, and therefore your life is sadly one day long. Rather than them go in the bin or being incinerated, we at the sanctuary make good use of them. So, I have 2 chickens. I'm going to do one up here and then one a little bit further down there where I'm hoping she's going to demonstrate how she swallows her food. Yeah, she gets rather excited at this point. So, off you go. Let's make her work for it a little bit more than that, shall we? Yes, there we go, alright. I'll quit. So, I give her that piece of chicken. We've got chicken fatigue. Do look away just about now. I'm going to rotate, but you can see that that's going down rather easily. She's not chopping it into little bits. That's keeping all of the moisture inside the food item. So again, it's giving her a drink at the same time. It's giving her something to eat. So, she gets rather excited. Keep it going. Keep going. Good girl. Sometimes you have to wave her on. She gets very excited. Are we ready down this end? Yeah? Yep. There we go. So she gets a nice big chunk of chicken. And I'm going to rotate yet again so people can have a good look. So sometimes, like the 2-year-old she is, she does certainly play with her food. But most of the time, it's going straight down. She's just posing for a quick picture for all of you, apparently, holding that chicken there to show off. But when she's looking upwards, you might even be able to trace her vision and see a wild buzzard. So far, I can't see one there. But by the looks of it, she's simply going to hold this chicken rather than swallow it. So, typical, as I threatened to take her home, she starts playing with it. There we go. So Logan here, she is a bit of a princess, to tell you the truth. I can't pop her in a box like a couple of the others. She throws a wobbly. So what I'm going to do is pass Logan here to my colleague Jazz, who's going to take her home. Is Marley, who is a beautiful Eurasian kestrel. Now Marley, as you can already see her demonstrating rather well, loves to get nice and close to people. If she does this, as long as you're comfortable, you can sit there, let her be in pose for a picture. Again, I ask you not to try to stroke her. There we go. You have to fly it though, thank you very much. So, Marley, she does sometimes sit next to you, she will sometimes hop on top of your head. As long as you're comfortable, just sit there and enjoy being a seat for a falcon. So as I've just said, Marley is a Eurasian kestrel, which does mean that she belongs to the falcon family. There are different groups of birds of prey. There are owls, falcons, caravan, vultures, eagles. The list, quite frankly, goes on. But what you're looking at here is one of the smallest falcon species. Eurasian kestrels, as the name implies, is found all throughout Europe and Asia. She is a little bit more agile than the owls that you've just met. This bird is what's known as a long wing. And long wings, as the name yet again suggests, have very long wings, designed for speed in cutting through the air as quick as possible. So whereas the owls start rather high and swoop really low, the kestrels are a little bit more direct in their flight line. Kestrels are a brilliant example of a species which shows sexual dimorphism, a really fancy way of saying the boys and the girls look different from one another. The females, like Marley here, have a lovely reddish-brown colour all over her body, but the males, they have a slate grey coloured head. So just by looking at them, you can tell whether you're dealing with a female or a male kestrel. Ooh. Which is very, very important. Sudden change of direction there, that's okay. Sometimes I like to chill out. Looking this way? Yes, there we go. This is not a funky dance we've taught her. This again is a sign of being content and being happy. So there are different groups and they all have different behaviours based on those family groups. That's a good girl. So as she's flying around everyone, you might see she has an incredibly long, lovely, fan-like tail. This tail is essentially the braking system on the bird. If she had no tail feathers, she would not be able to slow herself down. And if you can't slow yourself down, you're going to hit the floor pretty hard, aren't you? So it's within your interest to have lovely, long tail feathers. Marley here, or her wild counterparts I should say, are quite often seen hovering over motorways and roads.
Yeah, like the one we saw earlier.
These species are absolutely amazing for hovering. What they are doing is matching the speed of the wind that they're flying into to the point.
So I think we saw
And what that
on the way
actually
out,
does
didn't we?
is it gives her the opportunity to stay still and see her meal before it gets away. It's important while she's up there and hunting not to be blown around too much and lose what she's trying to hunt. So again, for those of you that join me in this morning's flying display, you will know we try to get our birds as close as possible, as she's already doing, and I have brought with me a spare glove. If I approach you and you fancy a go of having an owl or a bird of prey land on your arm,
when he gets near,
pop your hand in the air. I think your hand was the first one up this time.
No.
Just join me in the middle. I'm going to use you to show everyone else how to do it. We need left hands, guys. If you don't know your left, ask your parents or who you're with if you're an adult. So, this bird here, she is trained to fly to the back of the glove to come over and say hello to people. So Marley here, very, very friendly. This acts as a form of enrichment for her. Seeing different people, hearing different voices, seeing different faces, all of this is mentally engaging for the bird. Looks like she's found a friend and wants to stay there. Isn't it, madam? We've got to meet some more people though. Thank you very much. So as I'm flying Marley, you might notice, yes, if you'd like to join me next. So, as we're flying, guys, you might notice Marley popping her wings out over her food. This is a behaviour called mantling. Mantling is essentially her trying to hide her food away from other potential predators. There might be other kestrels hovering above this flying display, and she doesn't want them getting that food. Similarly, with myself, she's trying to hide that chunk of food from me too. I've got plenty of food. I don't eat raw chicken, thankfully, but she doesn't understand that. So she will pop those wings out in what's called a mantle. Arm nice and high for me, mate. Thank you. So, as you have Marley land on your arm, or any bird of prey for that matter, you'll notice they're nowhere near as heavy as they appear. The reason for this is, of course, they don't want to be too heavy. She's been a bit snatch and go-y today, as you can see, but it's still a pleasure to have an owl land on your arm, even if it is briefly. Just the other hand for me. Fantastic. Arm nice and straight. There we go. So these birds, you might also notice, sharpening their beaks on the side of the perches that they're sat on. This is a natural behaviour. It's something that they would be doing in the wild as they're hunting for different prey items. In the wild, they will just be hunting for their own food, naturally sharpening that beak and those talons. But in captivity, Marley move, in captivity, you might notice them doing it a little bit more because, of course, they're having their food hand-delivered to them. Very good agility there, madam.
It's a little bit more exciting than
outside. So, what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm not going to push Marley too much further, but don't worry, I have got another bird which will be able to come up and say hello to people. So if you haven't had a go on this one, don't worry, the next bird is friendly as well, and hopefully she's going to come on out and say hello to you. So we don't push the birds too far. If they get too full and too uninterested in me, she's going to end up trying to fly off, which, of course, leaves us at a bad point. And we want to end every session on a good note. Otherwise, she's not going to be so keen when I walk into her aviary tomorrow and offer her some food. That's a good girl. You can hear her talking to me, shouting down the mic. Very quiet now, of course. So she's making all of that noise, basically asking for food. Be cheeky and fly off down the road, we would be able to find her again. Touch wood, that's not going to happen, but it's also a really good way to be able to find them if they did fly off. We put a lot of trust in these birds, bringing them out here, sitting nice and close to you guys, but anything could spook them at any time. There could be a large bang in a field next to us. There could be a big crash on the A30 road there. So we need to make sure we have means and ways to find our birds if they flew off. Merrin here, as I said, an African spotted eagle owl. And these come in two different shades, two different colours. And that is generally based on Merrin, we can all agree, is a pretty big rock, isn't it? There's lots and lots of different habitats. If you are found more in grassland in Africa, it's going to be a bit more of a brown, dry environment. So being this brown coloration is going to benefit you more. However, if you're found high up in a rocky mountain, it's going to benefit you much more to be a grey colour. And that's exactly what you see in this species of owl. Some of them will be a grey, like Ridley, that you can see, one of our aviary birds down by the raccoon, and then you will get the browns, like Merrin here as well. So Merrin, she has got a pair of ear tufts, otherwise called plumicles, which I think is a fantastic word for them. Now these ear tufts are really good at telling us their mood. If they're down and flat on the side of Merrin's head like a shampoo advert flowing in the stuff, just like so. There we go. She comes crashing down, usually a bit harder because the wild ones are much really love to go for a run. She is the Usain Bolt of the owl world, everyone. Now this is not some funky trick that we taught this bird to do, beating against that grass. And what that will do is it will disturb insects. What are you holding on to, madam? You can't run with one foot. So she will be running, disturbing the grass, which will be flushing out some prey items so that she can jump on top of it. She will take full advantage of bugs, insects, crickets, worms, all of that as well. So if she can't find herself a nice big juicy
You want to have a go with
she
holding
will
hands?
serve gloves on, which is just a way not only to keep your hands safe, you just turn this way for me. Thank you very much. Here she comes. So not only is this a way for you to keep safe, it's also comfortable for the bird. So owls, they have 2 toes going forward and 2 toes going backwards, which is a fantastic way to keep hold of what you're... The bigger birds of prey will tear it apart with their beak. Now what...
Bash.
Oh, showing us his wings a little bit there.
Yeah, so they come from South Africa. I'll tell you a little bit of a story just because it makes the adults giggle sometimes. Brett, who has been doing the flying displays today, when he did his first talk on meerkats, told everybody that they came from Bosnia rather than Botswana, which is where they're often found. So it makes a few people giggle just because there's images of them running around with little machetes and things. So who knows what the temperature's like in Africa? Hot, yeah, okay. So these guys used to being in a really, really hot climate and used to be running around in the desert, okay. So the first thing I'm going to say to you is you're probably thinking they're all quite small. Actually, they're all fully grown. It's just that when you see them on documentaries, or if you're lucky enough to see them in the wild, you've got camera lenses all zoomed in, so they all look about 2 foot tall. Okay, but they're not actually 2 foot tall. It'd be pretty cool if they were. So obviously they're used to being really warm, something that it certainly isn't here at the moment. So in behind us, they've got a little heated house. It's got a radiator, it's got a heat lamp. And then occasionally when the sun comes out, you will see them sunbathing. So for those of you that were listening to me waffling on about the lemurs earlier, these guys do exactly the same, okay? They stand on their hind legs, and they are a bit like naked sunbathers, okay? So they show off their bellies to absorb all that warmth. Now they've got dark patches around their eyes. Anybody know why? So basically it is to help with the sunlight, okay? They act as a pair of sunglasses when they're out in the desert. Now, you'll have noticed as you came in that we've got 2 meerkats by the entrance, and the reason for that is initially the pair that were there were hand-reared, okay? They were hand-reared by Paula, who you'll have seen talking on the Owl Talks, and they were a dominant male and female pair. There's a dominant male and female pair in here. Sadly, Kerno lost his mate, so one of these guys moved across, but you cannot have 2 sets of dominant parents, okay? Out in the wild, you get the dominant set, and then all the adolescents grow up, and then the ladies all get kicked out of the nest when they're old enough. Okay. Anybody know what these guys eat?
Chicks.
Other than chicks?
Bugs. Is it bugs?
So bugs, grubs, insects, you'll notice that they've got really long toenails, and the reason for that is to help them dig and find all those termites out in the wild. So bugs, grubs, insects, they'll go for spiders, frogs, toads, but they also will go for snakes, okay? Now when they're on lookout, so there's always one or maybe 2 on lookout, so you'll notice that there's always one paying attention to the surroundings that's going on, and that's to watch out for predators. Now obviously here, we're quite lucky, we don't have many predators going around, but sometimes we get the odd funky aircraft that goes over that they have a good old nosy at. But with snakes, they form a different mechanism. So if we were to get a large bird of prey, these guys might let out a holler and they would all disappear down a burrow. If it's a snake, they actually puff themselves up, their tails go bolt upright, and they will actually run towards the snake as a whole. And these guys are actually able to de-venomalize them as well, so they are actually able to eat them as well. Not that that's something that we'd really like to do. But yeah, they have a really balanced diet. So today you can see they're having a little bit of chicks, sometimes they have mice, sometimes they have pigeon, quail, etc., whatever we've got going on here. So out in the desert, obviously really, really sandy. So what we've done in their enclosure is to make it as much of a natural habitat as we can. So everything gets moved around here on a daily basis. They get different enrichment and things. Every Christmas time they all have a Christmas tree to play with, which they absolutely love. They also get fed cat biscuits that you would give your domesticated cat, and they also have live mealworms in those as well, okay, which is what their diet would be similar to out in the wild. Now, these guys do have teeth. A lot of people do ask if they have teeth. Yes, they do have very sharp teeth. These guys are lovely. We do a lot of encounters with the public with these guys where you guys can come in, be crawled all over. They're great to check for nits because they go all through your hair. But do not walk in here with a pair of heavy gloves, a cat carry cage. Anybody got a cat at home?
I have.
Does it go in willingly in its basket to the vet? No. So these guys, very, very similar. They develop about 100 heads, 100 legs, and it is very, very difficult if we're trying to do anything medicational wise for them. Any questions on these guys? So in here we've got mum and dad and their siblings. Dad's in his late teens. People ask me how I tell them apart. I'm going to be really honest with you. I haven't got a Scoobies, but what I would say is that Dad's a little bit more smaller and he's a little bit more frail when he's moving around. But other than that, these guys all look pretty similar. I'm sure if I had time, and I always threaten to come in on my day off to spend time with them, that they are actually all individually marked. But when you're just visually looking at them, they all look very, very similar. So if there was to be a problem, they all have their individual microchip readers. So for those of you that have got cats, dogs, horses, whatever, they've all got their own individual number. So if there is an issue, then we can work out exactly who it is. That's Dad sat over there by himself at the moment.
How many is there in there?
So there are 9 in here
Okay.
all together.
So I couldn't keep count. They keep running in and out, and I was like, how many is there?
Yeah, there was 10 originally, but Stumpy's moved across with Kerno to live. So he's got a little mate over there. So you can just see that these guys just having a good old nosy. It's quite funny for those of you that would like a funny story. Mostly our aeroplanes come out from this direction and across. We had a microlight come out from this direction the other day. A microlight, for the little kiddywinks that might not know, looks like a giant triangle or a massive bird of prey. And I'm not joking, they were all in here. I could not get my phone out quick enough. They all looked up and they all fell over like a sack of dominoes. It was really, really quite funny. So for those of us that have fallen over before and you think, has anyone noticed, it was a bit like that. So I was like, no, it's all right, guys, I haven't seen. They all trampled over. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk across and let myself into the stork and wallaby enclosure. And I'm just thinking how easy it's going to be now that we've got that bit fenced off. Yeah, so if you follow Stephen will take you round the back. That's probably the easiest thing. And then hopefully you guys can get a good look in across. Hopefully they'll be a little bit.
Stork making that noise. That was
So anybody know what this little guy is?
stork.
Wallaby.
Is he a stork?
Wallaby? You think that's all big?
That's the wallaby.
So
He's a
this is
stork.
white stork, okay? So years ago, white storks used to be really common all across the UK. Unfortunately, we don't see many of them now, but there is a project that's been introduced back in 2016 on the Knepp estate to reintroduce these guys back to the wild. Okay, so we will have them all across the UK again. So at the moment, most of them are found in Africa. Anybody know where they go to have their eggs? So these guys typically will go and have their babies or have their eggs in sort of places like Russia, Poland, Germany, places like that. Okay. Now the stork, as we know, brings babies, okay, which is great. Alright. So what's really helpful is in cities where these guys nest is that they actually have their own they actually have their own sort of stalks that they know really, really well, and they actually will prepare the nests before they get back. It's really quite cool. Do look it up on YouTube if you haven't seen it before. So these guys, hopefully you'll have heard him making a clattering sort of noise today, and the reason they do that is the males arrive back first. Okay, they are the first ones that arrive back to the nest. So they arrive back first, they get all the nesting materials ready, so all the twigs, bits of grass, moss, etc. And then the female arrives a couple of days later. What they tend to do is they will throw their heads back and make a clattering noise. Can you make a clattering noise for me, beautiful boy? They make a clattering noise, which is basically them reaffirming their love to one another. Okay. Now he's got a bit of a thing for me, which is probably why he does that for me. He doesn't do it for everybody. Don't shake your head. I know you do. So yeah, so they make that clattering noise, and then within sort of 2 to 3 days, they will start to lay their eggs. Okay. Once they've reared their chicks, they take it in turns to rear their chicks. So both mum and dad will go off and forage for them. Anybody know what these guys eat out in the wild?
Fish?
Yeah, so they're going to go for fish, toads, frogs. Sometimes they'll go for small birds, small rodents, field voles. They also love bugs, grubs and insects, so they spend a lot of time worming as well and pulling up beetles. And roughly they take back, for those of you that have got a cow, I need to work it out in normal measurements, but they roughly take back about 4 kilos of food a day if they are rearing 2 chicks. So 4 kilos is roughly the weight of an average cat, as long as you don't have a really fat one like I do. So that's an awful lot of food for them to bring back. No polite way of saying this, the only way they can bring their food back is to carry it in their beaks, or if they might have ingested it, and then they will bring that back up and feed the babies. So when their job is done, they will leave the nest. Again, same process, dad goes off first, mum goes off after that, and then the babies will go as well. And that's what's really incredible about nature, is they know exactly where to go, even though they haven't flown that same flight before. And then what can happen the next year is that the parents return to their normal nest, but you'll find the babies have come back as well, because that's their nest as well. So there's a little bit of an altercation as to who actually gets to stay in the nest the longest. But yeah, really, really lucky. I've only ever seen one in the wild, which was down at Gwydion, but again, that was one. So so yeah, he was one of a pair. Unfortunately, his mate injured his foot, but we're hoping that we can find a friend for him. What's it called? This is Whinge. So we did have Whinge in wine. The reason that they were called Whinge in wine is because for those adults of you that have got little kiddies, or remember when the little kiddies were all grisly and horrible, making that whinging noise, that's exactly the same noise that the stork makes. Okay. So we adapt our animal talk every time that we come here, but what I'm just going to, just a little statement just about our emus, just in case anyone's a little bit worried or concerned about them. Anybody know why the dad's in with the chick? No, okay. So this is where the female emus, okay, really intelligent, okay, we can learn a lot from this. They lay the eggs, their job's done, they walk off, okay? It is dad's responsibility to feed the chick. So that's why Skippy and Charlie are in together, and then eventually a humbug will move back in and they're all in happily. I always like to touch base on that, just because it's one of the only one of the few animals that does that as well, because mostly it's the mothers that do that maternal job. Now, my wallabies have disappeared, hopefully sort of recently, as they came out. Anybody know where wallabies come from?
Australia.
Australia, correct. Anybody know what one of the largest marsupials is?
Kangaroo.
Kangaroo, yeah. So there are many, many different species of kangaroos, wallabies. So these guys are our red-necked wallabies, or aka Bennett's wallabies, of which we have 3 in here. We have 2 females. We have a joey that was born last year, and also mum is pregnant at the moment, so she's carrying a little joey in her pouch. Now, I'm not a biology teacher, I'm not going to give you the graphics, okay? Something that gets asked very, very frequently is the baby born in the pouch? Anybody know the answer?
No.
No. So babies are born as babies are normally born. I'll leave you to talk about that when you go home tonight. And then what happens is it comes out, it looks a little bit like a jelly bean, it climbs all the way up mummy's tummy and disappears down in the pouch. Now, again, can't really say this politely, inside the pouch are 2 very, very long dangly nipples, okay? The reason that they're very long and dangly is so that obviously when the baby gets in there, he or she can go upside down, back to front, and as they get older, obviously they don't fit so well. The gestation period is in the pouch until they're really, really quite big. You will probably have seen on documentaries of them trying to get in the pouch when they're too big, and that's because it's really nice and warm in there, and quite frankly, why would you want to be out in this area? So Australians love these guys. Anybody from New Zealand? No, excellent, I can get away with it. Okay, in New Zealand, these guys were taken over to New Zealand quite a few years back now. Just don't like They eat the crops. What is New Zealand really well known for? It's sheep farms, vast areas and acreage of fields and grass. And when the wallabies were introduced, they're classed as a pest because they eat all the grass, bushes, you name it, they eat it, okay? They do like their bit of vegetation. Hello, beautiful. Good question. Nobody really knows the answer to that. A bit like hedgehogs, because they ended up over there as well, and they don't. The New Zealanders don't like hedgehogs either. My husband's daughter moved out to New Zealand, and she rang and said, "I've got a baby hedgehog," and she's like, "I can't tell anyone because they won't let me look after it." So it's a similar sort of thing.